just use it to nitpick the good people and then defend the bad ones. That's what I mean, because as soon as the globalist and George Soros wanted body cams for cops, I was against them.
Well, yeah, that's a whole separate issue, but the use of classified material to persecute people, like in my case, when I said I'm going to go to the EEOC and file a complaint, they said, okay, well, here's a list of the stuff that you cannot mention in your complaint. So they took out every...
Phone cut out again. They took out the... Go ahead, Lamar. Lamar, I don't want to get any... Lamar, your phone's cut out again. Can you hear me? He died. Lamar, if you are who you're saying you are and you sound credible, send us an email info. I don't want to know anything secret about the DEA, but it'd be interesting to talk about that case because that was a well-known case and talk about what is public. And if you have been a whistleblower, want to go public, we've had some of the biggest on, from Thomas Drake to William Benny, you name it. So one of those whistleblowers, Wayne Madsen's coming up. He says the NSA is mainly to keep the government in line. All right, we are talking about Hillary Clinton. We just had a gentleman saying he was formerly with the DEA and was persecuted. All I know is that's in mainstream news. They persecuted the DEA, the FBI, the CIA, all these agencies. The upper controllers have much of the NSA and other spy grids pointed at the government to make sure the compartmentalization continues to carry out the globalization. That's what the whistleblower was saying. The compartmentalization is used to keep good people from knowing what's going on to advance globalization. It is a technotronic takeover system. We're taking your phone calls about this right now. Had a Pastor Manning joining us and more. News. Sean in Utah, you're on the air worldwide, and Mel in Costa Rica and others. Welcome.
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me on. I got a comment and a question. My comment is 5 years in the Navy and now working for a contractor, all the classified information handling training that I've received, I've always been taught that it doesn't matter your intent when you're handling classified information. If you mishandle it, and you're in the wrong. So, in my mind, she's wrong. Hillary's wrong. She mishandled classified information, and she should be punished for that.
And that's what the law says. And that's what the law says.
Yeah, and that's what we've always been taught. But 5 years in the Navy and now working for a government contractor, when we handle classified information, you don't have to prove intent if it's mishandled. It was mishandled.
And by the way, especially when you're military, you can tell folks about that training. That's not a secret. If there's people, even in, at your office or on a ship or whatever, trying to get in to get the material, you've got to destroy it or fight to the death to keep them from getting it. So it goes beyond, you're not just supposed to mishandle it or sell it. You're supposed to defend it.
Yes. And with deadly force if necessary.
Well, all I know is they use the secrecy. 95% of stuff, according to all the experts I've talked to in my own research, does not need to be classified. They classify basic procedures. They classify news stories. They classify all sorts of stuff to keep from the public or to not let the military itself talk about it. I mean, Washington Post articles get, quote, classified, by the CIA. There's millions of them reportedly. Different articles been classified so they can say, don't talk about this or don't allow this to be shared on computer systems. But then separately, Hillary Clinton, she can meet with the Communist Chinese hundreds of times when she was co-president with Bill and give them all sorts of secrets. I mean, she should be beyond prison. And again, I don't wish any harm against Hillary Clinton. She's a horrible creature. But I mean, at a certain point, if you or I got caught doing that stuff, we'd be given the death penalty, Sean.
Yeah, and the bare minimum sent to Leavenworth.
Well, let me tell you, foreign governments are on your illegal server. You're using it as a Dropbox. She's not stupid. Okay, that's espionage. And everybody's missing the boat. I'm telling you. She knew for years. She's not stupid. She was putting all this secret stuff on there selectively, knowing a bunch of governments were on there. There's two reasons. It was a secret program to leak disinformation, or Hillary Clinton was selling data. Now, I hate to float a cover story for them to say, it was a secret, disinfo thing, but, they do stuff like that. That's why during World War II, they broke the code for 3 years, but wouldn't tell, wouldn't let us win most battles because they didn't want the Germans to know we'd broken the code so we could win the, key battles. And that's a really evil Machiavellian thing to do, but That's what they did, and I guess it worked. But what's your view on that?
Yeah, she could have been selling it. She could have been doing whatever with that information, but I'm wondering how much of this FBI commie coming out with what he said is a distraction from what Obama might be trying to do his last few months in office.
I agree. He's coming after the guns. He's still got the borders open. He is jacking with the currencies. He's starting a bunch of wars. Yeah, we got to be watching Obama while we're diverted, with this Hillary. You are the resistance, my friends. As we broadcast worldwide, I'm your host, Alex Jones. Thank you so much for joining us. Larry Nichols, the consummate Clinton insider, came out last Friday and said they will not indict Hillary. And he said it a month before that and a year before that. He said the whole email thing is a distraction from all her other crimes, her persecution of the press, Benghazi, Fast and Furious, her girlfriends, the communist Chinese connections. And he was proven correct. He's going to pop in for like 10 minutes sometime in the next couple hours, probably towards the end of this hour with Pastor Manning riding shotgun with us. I do intend to continue with your calls with Pastor Manning, Mel in Costa Rica, and Maurice in Virginia, Daniel in Florida, Corey in Ohio, Margaret in Oklahoma. I love having Dr. Manning, who's a radio TV host in his own right, kind of co-host once a month with us for an hour and give us his insight on things and what's going on. There's another article in the London Telegraph, also in the LA Times, that all over the country, elites are building big armored compounds, mainly the technocrats of Google and Microsoft and Twitter and Facebook. And the headline is, The Wolves of Silicon Valley, How Megalomaniacs in Hoodies Become Tech's Answer to Wall Street. And Paul Watson reports on that on Infowars.com, how they're getting armored redoubts, storable food, you name it, because they are honchoing for the governments the incremental collapse. They're able to predict the future with mass movements. They're able to trigger revolutions. That's in the news today, with mainline tech experts coming out and political scientists saying, with multi-billion members, the biggest country on earth is Facebook. Its dictator is Mark Zuckerberg. That's a CNBC headline from a month ago. And he can throw the election because a large portion of the public are trendies, and they will do whatever they think is cool. And whatever the bots, whatever the fake friends, and most of their friends on Facebook, the little isolated folks that may have 10 or 15 real friends and then 10 or 15 fake friends they don't even know are fake. It's the next level of the Nigerian scam where you send $500 to Prince Abubu, he gives you $10,000. Give him $5,000, he gives you, $1 million, but the million never comes. Well, now you just have fantasy friends, just like Ashley Madison. I told folks years ago, I said that almost all that stuff is fake bots. I've seen guys literally go, look at this hot girl, she wants to go out with me. And I'm like, yeah, but that's a bot. That is the craziest stuff, and it's just a total culture of fraud. So there's those of us that are somewhat immune, somewhat awake to the scams, the manipulation, the great delusion. But then there's a lot of folks that aren't, especially young people, raised up in it. Young folks are either really awake right now or they're really dumb. We're seeing a major split here. So we're going to talk about that with Pastor Manning. We're going to talk about what's happening in the economy. Deutsche Bank is plunging right now. Eurozone rocked by British exit. Now George Soros bets $100 million on German bank collapse. You think Lehman Brothers was big? This is going to be huge. We're going to be talking about that. We've got former NSA whistleblower and Infowars.com reporter Wayne Madsen joining us to talk about all this and so much more. But here's Hillary Clinton and Obama persecuting the press and members of the government for blowing the whistle on corruption, using the very same laws Hillary now says she's exempt from, and the FBI director coming out looking like he was scared, looking like he was a deer in the headlights. I've watched a lot of his press conferences. He didn't normally look at the crowd. He was kind of looking up and and first he indicted her and how horrible she was and how inept, and then, but she's not going to get in trouble. But you will if you do this. Wow, don't try this at home, kids. This was unbelievable. So he's always got a very interesting angle. And I'm not just saying this patronizingly. We have a lot of guests on that are really astute. That's why they're on a lot. We don't just have a bunch of people on. We have people that I've found to be very accurate, very astute, on target. Manning always has angles I didn't think of that turn out to be game changers. So we'll see with this plethora, because I don't talk to him before the show. I just throw this stuff out there, and we'll see where he wants to go first. He's with Atla, a successful church fighting tyranny for the last 3 decades there in Harlem. He successfully helped boycott and began to shut down the dawn of that area, Al Sharpton, but I'm not going to go over his laurels here today. Just that you should visit his website that we have on screen of your TV viewer, radio listeners. Just go to atlah.org, ATLAH.org. I'm Alex Jones with Infowars.com. So, Pastor Manning, I've thrown out in the last 5 minutes a lot of topics. What would you like to tackle first, or you got a curveball for us?
No, James Comey, director of the FBI, actually will be Hillary's private State Department. And what I mean by that, Alex, is that she set up her own private email server, meaning that all communications to her from any other source around the world, whether it was about ISIS, about Putin, or about the UK, or about Muslims, or whoever, had to first come to her server. Now, that was not the appropriate protocol. We all know the appropriate protocol was for all information to come into the government server, and then she disseminate that information to the appropriate person, whether it be the Pentagon or whether it be the illegal president, Obama, or others. So what Hillary effectively did, and you got to give her credit for being as shrewd as a rattlesnake on this one, she now controls information over the past 4 years of her Secretary of State tenure that the government does not have privilege to. And when it was discovered that she had this, and a lot of stink was made about it, she deleted a ton of emails and then scrambled all the others. In other words, Hillary had her own private State Department. She only allowed the Pentagon, she only allowed Obama and others enter information that she deemed them worthy or had a need to know. And that's the thing that Comey did not discuss on yesterday.
Wow, that's why I love having you. Clearly, she was using it, as I've said, as a drop box. 33,000 are missing.
Absolutely.
But the spy is Hillary, because she's the one getting the data to then broker it out regardless. And absolutely, it's all the missing emails. It's that she bypassed the State Department itself, hijacking the Department of State. Wow.
Absolutely. That's exactly what she did. And who knows what information she has? Who knows whether the world would be in a much different state now?
And we know the Clintons have always been blackmailing people off the stuff they got 20 years ago. And now, oh my gosh. Wow, it's even worse than I thought.
Yeah. And so the fact that she was able to do this, get away with it, who knows what information we could have been privileged to? Who knows how many lives?
You know what's crazy, Manning? I'm not just kissing your butt. It's true. Nobody else is bringing this up except you. And what an angle. That's it. She had her own State Department.
Absolutely.
And then where's the missing emails? She stole data.
Yeah. And you know, and the other thing, Alex, is that Comey said on yesterday that were at least they were able to piece together during their reconstructing of the emails that were dumped, trash, or deleted, that 110 of them had been classified, a certain amount top secret, classified, etc. But there were 33,000 emails that went through her system. Now, just in general, 33,000 emails, when you think about it, coming to the Secretary of State, and only 110 of them, 110 ratio to 33,000 that were considered top secret, or those were the ones that they were privileged to. And in that none of those were alleged to have been violated. The other insult that he gave us on yesterday was that though she had created her own State Department, her own Pentagon, her own source of power, her own presidency, that her email server was never hacked. I mean, come on. And anybody, she sent you an email, you and her may have been conversing about something that you were aware of, or Wayne Madsen or Paul Watson may have been aware of, and you were communicating about it, and you thought that your communication with her was tight with the government seal upon it. But you were never hacked as well. It was ridiculous, the things we heard on yesterday regarding how they whitewashed. In fact, whitewash would be a nice word for what they did for Hillary, to say to her, you got the power, you ran the United States in a certain way, Obama ran it another way, and we're not going to trouble you. We're not going to